Greetings, everyone. Thank you so much for coming in. I'll wait a few more minutes. Let's see. All right. Are we ready?
We're ready.
Okay. Mom?
Welcome, everyone. This is Janet talking from Source Booksellers. We are so delighted and excited to have this great event with two prominent, wonderful African American writers, book publishers, and people who love the literary life that we have. So welcome to Source Booksellers. As many of you know, we are a unique niche of nonfiction books. And we have a very good way of selecting extremely important books that are not fiction, that are fiction. And that's why we can actually have Walter Mosley here to talk with Paul Coates about his newest book. So I am delighted and excited. Sit back and relax and enjoy. And don't forget to put your questions and comments in the chat. Allison?
Greetings, everyone. Um, if we didn't say before, we're at Source Booksellers here in Detroit, Michigan. And we are delighted for everyone that had early support of this book with pre-order and all of those that are fans of this series. Um, thank you for joining us. I want to start out with a few little introductions. Sorry. Um, W. Paul Coates is the founder of Black Classic Press and the BCP Digital Printing. Black Classic Press was founded in 1978, specializes in republishing obscure and significant works by and about people of African descent. Another delightful fun fact is that Mr. Coates was a former member of the Black Panther Party and led the effort to establish the Black Panther Archives at Howard University. And he'll be in conversation today with Walter Mosley, one of America's most celebrated writers, who was 2020's National Book Award medal winner for the distinguished contribution to American letters. And if you saw in our event, you saw that both Mr. Coates and Mr. Mosley have been on the National Book Award stage together. Um, okay, so is named the Grand Master of Mystery Writers of America and honored with the Amishfield Wolf Award, a Grammy, a PEN USA Lifetime Achievement Award, and of course, a NAACP Image Award. His work has been translated into 25 languages, different languages. He publishes both fiction and nonfiction. And you can also see Mr. Mosley on the screen. So you might have hopped on to Apple TV to see The Last Days of Ptolemy Gray. And he also co-wrote the adaptation of his novel, The Man in the Basement, which will be streaming on Hulu. Um, he divides his time between Brooklyn and Santa Monica. We are so delighted to host this conversation. So, everybody, get ready for a fantastic conversation about Gray Dawn, one of, is it the 17th outing for Easy Rollins?
It's the 17th book about Easy Rollins, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yep, and that it's you and me, Paul.
Okay. Well, this is good, except I'm not seeing myself, Walter. Other than that,
I see you.
you see me? Well, this is
I
good.
do.
Let's work, man. Let's work. I can see you. I don't need to see myself. Okay. Look, hello, everybody. Hello. We're up for a great conversation this evening with Walter Mosley, and I'm looking forward to contribute to that conversation by offering a few questions. For people who have followed Walter's career, people such as me who have followed Walter's career and other folks, and if you have Grey Dawn, you probably notice it's a little bit different than the other Easy Rawlins books. Not only is it different than the Easy Rawlins books, I think what we will see that it's a little bit different than most books of fiction. Walter, you took the time, not only took the time, you wrote a special note to the readers of Grey Dawn. And it's a different note because you haven't done this with any of your Easy Rawlins books before, but you felt it was important that you get this note in and that people read this note before moving on to Easy Rawlins. Can you talk about that note? And can you talk about its meaning to folks on the call tonight?
Well, yeah, Paul, I've been writing Easy Rawlins. I've been publishing the books of Easy Rawlins since 1990. So it's 35 years of publication. And for most of that time, almost all of that time, I just felt that, well, people will understand Easy's attitude, his position in the world, and what he thinks. They don't even need to agree with what he feels or thinks, but they'll understand why he feels and thinks this. What forces have caused him to believe that he's being held almost in place by a system. He and most Black people are being held in place by a system that in many ways, and probably in the worst ways, refuses to recognize these people. But I realized I was writing a part of this book. Easy is going into this insurance company owned by this very wealthy Frenchman, where his friend Jackson Blue works. And there are a lot of people. It's a big, it's a skyscraper. It's a big bottom floor. A lot of people are around doing things, talking, moving around and stuff. Easy comes in, and the security guard, comes right up to him and says, "Yeah, can I help you, sir?" And he says, well, I don't know what he says. However, he thinks I want to kill this man.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's not going to kill him. He's not going to hurt him. He's actually going to speak, really well to the guy, but guiding him to the place and understanding that him messing with Easy is probably going to get him to lose his job. And I realized that there might be many younger readers. I'm going to say that younger, though there could be older ones that would read that and say he wants to kill him. Why? Because he asked him what he's doing there. That's the guy's job, and they wouldn't understand where he came from. All that long road he had to travel in order to be able just to walk through the front door of that building. And there was a time when he would come to that building and the guard in the front door would say, "No, you have to go away. This place is not for you." And that was, and it made me happy actually after a while, because I got to talk about all of the people in Easy's life, not just Easy, but Jackson Blue and Raymond Alexander, all of the people who are not there. They have done amazing things, but it's not because they're more or better than anybody around them. It's just that in order to do kind of normal things in life, they had to live a life that was nearly perfect externally as they presented themselves in the world. And talking about that, made me happy, and I think it was a good moment to do it.
You know, Walter, I think the note, first of all, is a beautiful note. And it's beautiful in the sense of it's a marker. And it does exactly what you're saying. It gives people an opportunity. It's like preparing them for this man who is easy. One of the one of the things that makes the note, I think, so appropriate is, and again, this is for especially for folks who have followed Easy Rawlins over these 17 books. One of the things that makes the note so appropriate is what we've witnessed is Easy going through the different cultural, the different changes in Black consciousness. And so when we're meeting Easy in Grey Dawn, we're in the 70s. This is not the same Easy that we first met, the Easy that appears to us in Devil, the Easy that appears to us in
Gone
your
fishing.
earlier works. It's not. This Easy is a fully matured Black man. Not that he knows everything. In fact, he knows that he doesn't know everything. He's still searching. There are places of emptiness for him, but this note is a marker for him. Can you talk about how you brought Easy along, Walter, and why was it important? Because as you brought him along, you're actually looking at the stages or what I might call stages of our mass consciousness. Why is that important for you to have Easy travel that path?
Well, you know, it's a good question, Paul, and it's one that probably can't be for me can't be answered on the terms that you present, because I wrote a book a long time ago that Black Classic Press published, Gone Fishing. It was the first book that that I'd really finished and was ready to to send out into the world. And I was writing about Easy and Mouse. They were teenagers and they had different ideas. Easy, was kind of trying to look for the kind of life that he needed to live, that he didn't find was, was very easy in Fifth Ward, Houston, Texas. And of course, Mouse wanted to kill his stepfather, so there was a whole other thing going on. But that book was just a book I wrote, and I enjoyed it very much. Nobody wanted to publish it at that time, but luckily you did later. And after a while, I just started writing another book, same two characters, but instead of 1939, it's 1948. And Easy had been through a war. Mouse had been through another kind of war. And I was writing a book just about him and Mouse, and it was fine. And it's 1948. When I started writing the book, I didn't know it was going to be a mystery, a crime novel. And I finished that book, and that book was really good. But my publisher said, "Look, you got to write another book now." And they would say, "Here's some money. Now go write another book." And I went, "Okay," because I wanted money and I hated working. And so I went and wrote the next book. Now, so this is some years later, maybe 3, 4, 5 years later. And Easy's a little different now, and Los Angeles is a little different now, and he has a problem. And this is a book about, about a very committed, socialist who thinks that everything in the world should be equal, and he, and what the government thought about him and what Easy thinks about him. And I finished writing that book, and then they just kept happening. But it wasn't like I planned for them to happen. It's not like when I wrote the first book, I knew what the second book was, or this third book, and then the fourth. I just was writing about Easy, which is kind of the way that we live our lives, right? Somebody said, well, that the plan of your life, when you start off at 5, you were in Detroit, But then, you know, you moved to Chicago. Now that was a, you know, but there's always like reasons like, well, I moved to Chicago because there was a good job there waiting for me. And a friend of mine said he could give me that job. And then he, you know, goes there and works for a while and things just kind of grow. And then I met this woman and she was really very nice. And then we had a child. And then the child had these impacts on me. The world is changing you while you're living your life. And one of the wonderful things about writing from 1939 to 1972, which this Grey Dawn is in, is that the world changed so much in that period of time that everything was changing, like kind of all the time, and you just kind of had to love it. I mean, really, it was a great thing.
So, Walter, I hear what you're saying and I understand, and I think that it's so beautiful that going along you were able to capture that. However it happened, you knew and you know the important things that are happening around Easy.
Mhm.
And for those of us who have followed you with Easy, what we've seen is how Easy has matured. And this is really, really, as far as I'm concerned, it's one of the most beautiful things around about Easy, because whether we're in the period or the civil rights movement, Easy is dealing with issues that are pertinent to that. Right now, we're a little beyond the civil rights movement. And Easy is that person, even as we're in this period, his language changes, his body changes, how he approaches life changes. And I will always congratulate you and thank you for capturing that and leaving behind a record that people can follow, again, of the mass consciousness of Black folks. But look, let me switch up a little bit on this, because when we opened Grey Dawn, Easy is not so heroic. In fact, he's quite vulnerable. He's what we would call depressed. He's looking for himself, or he's looking for something new.
Or something old.
Ah, yes. Can you talk about that? Can you talk about what's happening with Easy and why he's there?
Well, you know, Easy lives in a community of 6 houses on top of a mountain that one of the women who lives in one of the houses owns. She owns the whole mountain. And she gives Easy free rent. He's completely protected, which is what he thinks about, you know, his children, especially his daughter. Son has moved away. And it's kind of like an ideal existence, you know. It's like he lives a life. He's safe. They have, you know, guards that guard the place. They're from Sicily, so they're tough, you know. He was in love in the last book with a woman named Amethystin, and you know, like people want to be in love with, you know, they have these ideas of whatever, you know, perfection is, you know, he or she has to have a job, he or she has to be law abiding, he or she has to, you know, whatever. But you know, Amethystin is none of those things. Amethystin she's a tough woman. And when Easy meets her, he falls in love with her, and then she murders somebody, and Easy tells her, "I have to break up with you. You know, you murdered this guy." And she said, "You would have murdered him if he did to you what he did to me." Mm-hmm. And Easy said, "Well, yeah." It said, "But that's different because I understand what I'm doing." You know, it's a notion, and that notion spreads out through the book, because not only are we talking about race, but this is 72. This is when the feminist movement really starts going. And you start to meet women who are doing different things, who are facing the world in a different way, like his assistant Niska, who's, you know, the 3 detectives, and this is the assistant, but she wants to be a detective now. Easy can't imagine a woman being a detective. That's just where he comes from. He says, a detective? You should be at home having babies, you know, and you know, and maybe getting a little job on the side. But you know, the detective, that's dangerous. But she wants this, and Easy's smart enough to know. He says, "Well, I don't think you can do it," in his head, "but I'll help you as long as you want. And I expect you to quit. But if you don't, well, that proves me wrong." It's a kind of a, he has a largesse to him that helps him deal with a world that is changing so fast, a world still in war. He has to accept a lot of things. Mouse's new girlfriend is not only she Vietnamese, she was Viet Cong when she was in Vietnam, and he just has to accept it. So, well, this is what it is. So I'm gonna go along with the program and see what's going on. I think that the idea that Easy is he wants to get back to who he used to be. He used to live in the Black neighborhood in South Central LA. He worked almost solely with people of color. They come up to him and say, "I'm in trouble. Somebody saying I did this, but I didn't do it. Could you help me?" And he said, "Yeah, I think I could help you. How much can you pay?" He said, "Well, I can make you chicken and dumplings every Saturday for the next 6 months. How's that?"
Mhm.
And he said, "Okay, I'll take that. That fills up my Saturdays for the next 6 months. Let's do it." And he's not doing that anymore. He's
Mhm.
among these really wealthy people up in the clouds. He's given up his girlfriend, and it makes him really sad. He's trying to find his life back again.
Well, Walter, it's interesting. Well, there are 2 points, and I don't know which one you want to go to, but let me raise them both together.
Okay.
Because while Easy has some questions about Niska and her abilities as a detective because she's female, Fearless doesn't. Fearless sees the world and he sees women as being, I mean, if they have the population, they should, I can't remember your exact words, but
Yeah.
if they do half the thinking, they should have a right. Fearless is a different type of heroic person. And he's different also because at this point, Fearless among your characters, a number of your characters are readers or they've become readers.
Hmm.
They're exercising that intellect. Even Mouse
Yeah.
is reading and talking about the history of Bangladesh and things like this. Fearless doesn't feel the need to do that. He'll
Uh-huh.
read what he has to read, but he doesn't feel the need. But he is fully conscious and even ahead of Easy in this case when it comes to women. Can you give us some background on Fearless in that context? And I know you can talk about Fearless forever. Oh, wait a minute, Walter. Let me add into this
Oh, okay.
because the same person, you can go either way on this, okay? The same way you're speaking about Easy and wanting to get back to that past, his partner, one of your favorite guys, Jackson Blue, wants the same thing.
Yeah.
Jackson Blue wants to get back to the past as well. Now he's living up large at this point also. So can you go either way, or you can do both?
Well, I can do both. I mean, in blues parlance, you would say about Fearless Jones is that he's a natural man. He lives in a world like a very intelligent creature. He just moves through the world. He sees what's happening. He knows what's happening. He's not trying to. He might kill you, but he's not trying to dominate you. If a woman, he knows he knows women. He knows Etta Mae. He knows Mama Joe. He said he knows women who can do things that no man could do. And the idea, and he knows that this whole idea is, well, I'm better than these other people, whether it's, white people saying it about black people, men saying it about women. He says they're just doing that to hide from themselves. He knows that. He knows it naturally. I doubt if he'd be able to explain it,
Hmm.
but he knows it, you know, and so that's that, he's doing that's his life. He doesn't question anybody. And that's in that way he's a wonderful character. It's why everybody falls in love with him, but he's never able to keep it going because he lives this life where he might wake up at 2 a.m. and he has to go, and and he knows that. Jackson, on the other hand, Jackson is he's definitely a genius. He's definitely a coward. He But the life that he lived, which is even harder than Easy's in many ways, was just in the streets dealing with people that he was afraid of, but that he had to deal with, and that sometimes he had to cheat, sometimes he had to steal from, and then disappear before something bad happened, and maybe run to Easy, and Easy would help him. This is the old days when he slept in the alley and drank the cheapest wine. Now he's rich and he runs this company, but what his heart yearns for is not what he has. He likes having what he has, but it yearns for that tough existence in the street, and much like Easy. And Easy tries to keep him away from it because he knows what would happen to Jackson in the streets right now, and he doesn't want him to go there. But Easy, same things. The guy runs up to him one day and says, "Hey, man, empty out your pockets." Now, no gun, no knife, nothing. Just say, "Empty out your pockets," or I'm going to beat you to the ground. And Easy has to deal with this. Oh, right. This is part of that life that I left. When the kind of work that he does. And but this is life. And I think that Easy's living with it.
Yeah.
And the book starts in a gray dawn, and he's very depressed, and he's sad on top of his mountain, and it gets better.
It definitely gets better. I know that we're gonna turn this over at some point. I got to get one more in though, Walter.
Okay.
I have to get in that Easy is a father. He's a father, and he's a father, and in this book. With Jesus, with
Feather.
we talk about Feather. Yes, Feathers in Paris, but he's still a father.
Yeah.
He has these feelings. But what I really like, in addition to these, his children have always been in his life, is Gigi. Gigi has adopted him. And this is what he's thinking at this point. This new child comes into his life, and he gets to be this father all over again. What do we see with Gigi? What does Gigi represent? Something that's not there for Fearless? Is she some kind of completion or help to completion?
Well, I think that I mean. This is a young child that is also like him, very rich. She much more rich actually. But her family has been decimated, and she just needs somebody that cares for her, that she could feel is going to save her, like children often feel. And Easy is a sucker for that. Like if whoever you are, whatever, if you need something, he's gonna be there for you. So it's not a really change in his life. It's who he's always been. But up on his mountain, he's not going to run into that. He's not going to feel that. But once he goes down into the street, some people say, listen, man. You're about 2 inches away from me killing you. And he goes, well, let's go. I'm glad I'm not there yet. And, and he has to deal with that. But on the other hand, he finds this young girl who needs help. He said, okay, well, and he figures out what to do for her, and there's other people and other women and other children. There's all kinds of stuff that's going on with Easy.
Walter, I carefully have asked these questions without them being spoilers to anything in the book. So so people, please do not feel that anything is spoiled. And I think in this question, and I'm watching our clock, in this question, Amethystine, Easy is in love. But the whole time that he's in love, and he loves her really so much. The whole time he's in love, I keep thinking back to Etta Mae. I know he's done with that,
Uh-huh.
but I keep thinking back to Etta Mae and how much he loved her.
Mhm.
What he has just left everyone else. This woman has dominated him. She dominates his physical, the space that he thinks in. He's in love.
Mhm.
I'm just wondering, I'm just wondering, Walter, and this is a question going forward. Is there love for Easy? I mean, is there a family for Easy? Is that even this character, or is he on a path that now he's got his children? I know he's got that part, but what he truly has wanted all the time was this deep love, and this appears to be a chance.
Yeah, and I think it is, and the thing I can't tell you
Yeah,
is where it's going to go.
yeah,
Where's she going to go? Where's he going to go? What's going to happen? There's the other character that, the only policeman that Easy trusts is Melvin Suggs.
mhm,
Melvin Suggs, he's like a hard-bitten policeman, and he believes, he lives and breathes being a policeman.
yeah.
And so he deals with criminals. He has to understand criminals, and so the idea that he's going to have a girlfriend, or a wife who's going to belong to the cotillion and go to the church and only think about what kind of clothes she's going to wear. That's never going to be the woman he's going to have, right?
Mhm,
And it's the same thing with Easy. I
mhm.
mean, Melvin has this woman, Mary, and Easy looks at Mary and he says, she's the most complete criminal I've ever met in my life.
Yes, yes.
But she's living with the number 3 policeman in Los Angeles. Amethystin is very much like that, and the women earlier in his life were like that. But he always said, "Well, I'm leaving that." But the truth is, you can't leave your past. You modulate it. You can
Mhm.
try to protect people like your own children inside of it, but you can't leave it in your heart. You'd be sitting there saying, well, listen, this is not, having a barbecue and watching a football game on a rabbit-eared television set in the backyard. That's okay, but you know, I got to do something, and I think that's who he is and what he does.
Walter, I want to congratulate you on Grey Dawn. I
Hmm.
want to congratulate you and thank you for bringing such a beautiful story. I started with beautiful, I'm ending with beautiful story together, for sharing the many characters, giving us a glimpse of those characters again that are in Easy's life. And I just hope folks on the call, you go out and grab your hard copy, grab your audio books, grab whatever you need to really enjoy Grey Dawn. And I hope you'll also take the time to go back, because this one also has Mama Joe in it. And Mama Joe is, I was counting the years. I was going over it today, the years between Mama Joe and Easy at this time. And Mama Joe is still beautiful. She's still, in there. And she's still one of my favorite characters. So I hope folks will go back to Gone Fishing, which, as
Mm.
Walter mentioned, we published as Black Classic Press 30 years ago. And it's been a wonderful journey with Walter ever since. And I thank you, Walter. I think we're going to move to questions at this point. Allison, are we doing our questions? And if she
I'm
doesn't come
gonna,
in, we're going to keep going
I
on.
did, I
Oh,
hopped
okay. We're
on.
going we're
I'm
going to
here.
keep going.
Don't you go anywhere. Mr. Coates, don't you go anywhere. Okay. So, okay. Um, we're gonna start with Zigzag Claiborne. His last book was called Breath, Warmth, and Dream. And his question is a writer's question.
Hmm.
After such a long, brilliant, creative career, do you still surprise yourself in the writing process?
Always. I mean, because I don't I usually take somebody's point of view, a character's point of view, and I'm following it into a kind of semi-darkness. I don't know what's there. Uh, he doesn't know what's there, and that's always, it's always the case with every book I write. You know, I might know some of the things that are going to happen, but I still don't know exactly what happens and exactly how anybody, you know, responds to that. Sometimes it's a very small thing. Sometimes it's a gigantic thing. You know, in Gray Dawn, just a guy who comes to Easy's office, who's just, you know, he said it looked like he fell off the back of a farm truck and rolled up on myself, you know, and then and he's looking for his auntie and for his grandma who lives in Texas. And Easy knows he's lying, but he doesn't know what he's lying about. He just thinks it's something minor. But the story ends up in a conspiracy against the city of Los Angeles. You know, a real estate, you know, a money conspiracy against the city of Los Angeles, run by a person who's so powerful that Easy has no chance of doing anything to stopping this guy. But you know, he's still Easy. He's still got to do what he got to do, you know. And I had no idea I was going there. I was way at the end of the book when I went, wow, this is really different. It changed somewhere along the way.
Bravo. Keisha Gardner, thank you for the helping me know how to say it. Is in Seattle, Washington. She's 52 years old. And she met you there at an event, I guess, in Seattle. She started reading you when she was in her 20s. Easy, Ptolemy, Fearless, King, all of them. She's not a big fan of the sci-fi that you write, but she does really, really love your fiction. Your male characters helped her to better understand the complexities of Black men and to understand and accept them for who they are. Her father was not always present, and not many good men were in her life growing up. Also, a greater understanding of my people, migration from Texas, and our connection with our past. So this is a statement which we totally accept.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Marquita Mosley, she's thinking maybe this is a silly question, but she just noticed this in a lot of the writing. You mentioned looking for something old, which is a familiar reference to a lot of your characters in other stories. What is it about the past or historically or present personally that draws you to keep thinking back for these characters? Mr. Mosley, to keep the past alive with these characters, or for example, almost Alice in the last days of Ptolemy Gray and Easy.
Well,
Does that make sense?
Yeah. You know, it does.
Okay.
You know, the thing about, one of the things that I realized about writing very early on was that if you didn't belong to the dominant classes and you did not appear in the literature, you did not appear in history. And so writing, I'm not going to ever write a book about just, you know, a straightforward experience, you know, today. I mean, I might, but, you know, but the thing is that Easy looking for his past is offering that past, making it a part of how you see things. A lot of people with the Easy Rawlins series, they come to me and say, look, I when I moved to Los Angeles, I didn't know where I was. I didn't understand it at all. And then somebody came up to me and said, read these Easy Rawlins books and you will understand Los Angeles. Now, whether or not that's true, they read it and they did understand LA. But at the same time, they're going to understand Easy Rawlins. They're going to understand, Jesus, his adopted son, Feather, his adopted daughter. They're going to understand Jackson Blue and how wonderful and funny and crazy he is. They're going to understand Mouse, who was like, the only, black man in America who's not afraid of anybody. And he says, his mind is as confident as any president. When you see all of that, you begin to understand these characters, and they become a part of your history. And that's, it's not only my books. Many people write books. Toni Morrison writes books. So many people do. But the more that we blend ourselves into the fabric of American culture, which we are there anyway, but when we expose that fabric, then we become part of history.
Hey, we have a few more questions here.
Well, it's okay.
Let me get it together. Okay. Paul Jones says, is it helpful to read the Easy Rawlins books in order of their publication? Since I'm new to the series. Thank you for joining the series. Okay.
I write every book that you could sit and read that book and you don't need to read anything else. Easy talks about his life and about his friends in such a way that I expose them in such a way that you feel like you're seeing them for the first time. You're understanding them. It's really fun. The story is unique. It's not a story that's based on previous things, or not all of it anyway. But you could, start from the beginning. You go back to, Paul's version of Gone Fishing and read all the way up. It'll work. But I don't think it'll make a difference.
Byron Foster asks, does Easy's relationship with the police evolve along with this book as well?
Well, it evolves in the way Black men's relationship evolves with the police. Melvin Suggs is the only man in the department that he trusts. And his number two, he likes number two, but number two thinks there's something wrong with these. He thinks that, like he sees the criminality and he sees skin. He can't help it. That's the way he sees it. Easy can work with that guy. He can work with a lot of people. He's very smart. He knows how to, talk to somebody without getting his head shot off. But it's never going to be him being connected or united with the police. Even if you're a Black policeman, you're not going to be that. It's just that he has to deal with it, and the complexity with which he deals with it is what makes it all fun, actually.
And so Deepak asks, is Gray Dawn a good first, well, you just kind of answered, is it a good first Easy book? If yes, how does it look back on the life shaped by your lived characters? So I think he's asking to meet them in a more mature place. Is that helpful? I don't know.
Well, I think that reading this book, this is a really good example of Easy's life. It starts in a place that's kind of interesting, a little off kilter, a little unbalanced, and he just works. He's going to work into that, and he's going to try to have an answer for who he is in this life. So in that way, I think that it's a really good book to read. So you wouldn't have any problem. If you turn around and read Devil in a Blue Dress first, well, okay, fine, that'll be a good book too. And Easy's a very different character. He's 28 in Devil, and he's 52 in this book, and Gray Dawn. But one thing I really do. Every book I write is a novel on its own that stands on its own.
Erica Litz Lipscomb. It says, I just received my copy of Grey Dawn. Yay. I've read every Easy, Fearless King, Leonard book you've written, and I really appreciate the author's note you included. What made you decide that now is the right time to tell the to tell the birth of Easy?
You know, I mean, I've kind of answered this question before, but you know,
Mhm.
it's worth, you know, thinking about. I I'm really happy about how Easy came about. Somebody was asking me. I was somewhere doing a reading. I think it was in New Hampshire, and I was I I was, you know, trying to explain what it is to be a Black man from the Deep South right after World War II, and to come to, you know, to almost a new world, which would be California. Now, when I go back to his past, in order to start that, it's Easy standing in front of his apartment. You don't know it's Easy. It's just this is this guy. He's just talking. He's standing in front of his apartment. He's having a rent party. Everybody comes up. They got to give him a nickel, and then they can come in, and you know, he has some food in there and some beer in there, and they can drink, and he's going to be able to pay his rent at the end of the, you know, at the end of the night, you know, in nickels. And the thing is that when he, you know, he sees Etta Mae, he's in love with Etta Mae back then, and Etta Mae just, you know, smiles at him, says, "Hi, how you doing?" And she goes on in, and then Mouse comes up. Mouse is dressed better than Etta Mae, and he looks at my main character and he says, "Hey, Easy, how you doing?" I had no idea that he was named Easy. I had no idea that Easy was short for Ezekiel. I had no idea that it was basically a pun on his experience, because his life is hard, but we're going to call him Easy, from a guy named Mouse who's much more like a rat. You know, you have all of this stuff happening, coming out, because so many of the things that we talk about when we're writing as writers come from a place that we know, but that we're not really even thinking about. We're just saying, well, my character has to get from point A to point L, and I'm sending him out, you know, and things are happening. But in the meanwhile, all of this character stuff, which has nothing to do with that journey, becomes a part of the life, you know. So, you know, I mean, I probably could have written this introduction at any time, but I do think now it's very clear that a lot of people don't understand uh, the Black experience, and that's because so many people in America are now having the Black experience all for themselves. They're not Black, but they're having the same trouble. You know, everything is against them. Police are against them. The job is against them. The government is against them. You know, and they used to, you know, they were never on top, but at least they weren't on bottom. But now they're on the bottom with us, so they don't like it.
Allison, can I say one other point? Can I put one other point in for this book? I Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay, good. So Walter, I've always loved your description of your characters. I love your characters' names. I love your descriptions of your characters' name. But I found myself waiting for you to describe these characters, like what they have on. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like the woman who wears a dress. It doesn't matter. You don't just say she got a dress on. I
Uh-huh.
mean, you talk about the dress down to the flow of her feet. Your powers of description just seem to get better and better and stronger.
Wow.
And they are very, very powerful in this book. They've always been powerful, always been powerful. But I kept waiting to get to the part of the descriptions, you know?
Mm-hmm.
That's a luxury I took. So I really wanted to compliment you on that.
Well, thank you, Paul. You know, when I first started writing, I I understood dialogue. And so like my writing would be, he said this, she just said that, he said this, he said that, you know, and somebody told me one day, they said, well, Walter, where are they? What are they, you know, what are they wearing? What are they eating? What's the weather like? What, you know, you can't just have people talking. And I went, oh, okay. So I got to learn how to, and I remember this. I said, I have to learn how to describe all this stuff about them. Okay. All right. And then, you know, and I did, you know, and I think it's really important, you know, language itself is really important, but you know, also what you see is an important thing. Yeah. Anyway, another question?
Yes. Naima Yassin says, I have no question. She says,
Okay.
I just wanted to say, I love your characters. The men always have that friend, no matter what they do in life. Um, wrong or right, they protect each other. For example, Easy Mouth and Socrates.
Mhm.
Um, and Zigzag is back to say that the one thing he always noticed was, especially in the Easy Rollins world, is how important friendship is to Black life.
Mhm.
That is true.
And that's, you know, that's the thing, you know, to talk about, you know, because you have to take care of your people, you know, and I mean, especially, you know, if you come from, you know, one of the so-called minorities in America, you know, you have to take care of your people because, you know, nobody else is going to do it. You know, it's always been true. Now it's actually true for everybody, but it used to be true for just, you know, little groups of people. And you know, but this is how we make it, you know, and we talk, you know, there's a moment where Paris Minton, Fearless Jones's friend, is, you know, trying to get away from Easy's house because the police were there and this was that, and you know, and he's running, and Easy said, well, you Paris, you can, you know, go on down the mountain. He said, but you know, there's a whole bunch of police down there right now. And when they see you get in your car, they're going to write down your license plate and they're going to, you know, say he seemed to be running away in quite a hurry. Maybe you want to stay here for a while before you have to, you know, and it was like, yeah, he's looking out for his friend. You know, a lot of people wouldn't do that. They just see you go. So, okay, he's gone. They said, what happened? Well, I think he got shot, but you know, I don't know. It ain't got nothing to do with me.
Awesome. So, Janet Jones wants me to bring up
Yes.
how frequent, like this is Gray Dawn
Uh-huh.
or Devil in the Blue Dress or Yellow Dog. Do the colors mean anything is all? Is that
You
she can
know,
pop up and say,
but you know, this is really, it's, you know, sometimes you can be a little embarrassed by your answers to a question like this. I wrote Devil in a Blue Dress. Uh, and you know, I was thinking about the song Devil with the Blue Dress On. I was thinking about, you know, because the music, you know, just kind of traveled right through LA. I talk about that a little bit in this book. A little bit, that's what I was doing. That was like based on a kind of a title of something. And the next one I wrote was A Red Death, and this is going back to Edgar Allan Poe and The Mask of the Red Death, you know. And I was thinking that's another one. I wrote those two books, and so I started writing the next book, and my editor said, "So Walter, what's the color in this book?" And I said, "What do you mean color?" And I went, "Oh yeah, blue and red. Okay." He said, "Yeah, you calling things by their color. You got to use the color." And I said,
"Oh,
okay. And that I've done it ever since. It's fun, you know. When I turned Bad Boy Brawley Brown into that editor, he said, "Well, Walter, it's a good book. You know, but where's the color?" Because you know, I was using Brown not as a color, but as the guy's last name. But it is a
name.
color, you
It is
know.
a color."
Yeah, right. And it was so much fun. I do, and like, I mean, Farewell Amethyst, and just I said, wow, God, I did that. That's cool because you know,
Mm-hmm.
there's you know, there's a million colors. You know.
Yes. Well, thank you so much. I do want to mention that we were blessed with these beautiful book plates.
Oh, thank
We
you.
only have a few left.
Good. I mean, I'm sure we can get you some
But
more.
okay, thank you.
Okay.
But the design is fantastic.
Yeah, it's,
Um,
those are the drawings I do. I do drawing. When I'm not writing, I'm drawing, and I do those drawings. So,
mhm,
and
awesome.
and my publicist said, "Listen, you need to use this on these book plates." And I went, "Okay."
Yes. Well, Mr. Coates, Mr. Mosley. Oh no, someone just popped up.
That's Sally saying that she can get you the book plates.
Oh, okay. Um, oh no, this is Adrian. She's saying, save me a book plate.
Okay.
You have to get them one, us a few more. Okay. So I want to say thank you to everyone that joined us. Also, a special thank you to everyone that had early support of this book. And anyone that is going to read the series at any point or any of the series that that Walter Mosley writes, you will be in for a treat. And one of my favorite covers is this one. Is it called Touched?
Oh yeah, touch. Yeah, all right.
Love it. So my call to action is to get Grey Dawn. If you don't have it, read it if you have it. Enjoy the author's note. And also on Black Classic Press, the website for Black Classic Press is it
Folks can go to blackclassicbooks.com.
blackclassicbooks.com?
I have to say something, Allison, and Walter,
Okay.
you have to forgive me. But I think the person who made the point about the friendship in Walter's books, that's because that's who he is. I woke up, I think it was last week, and I had to call him because it really, I've thought about it many times, but it really came over me how tremendous he has been as a friend to me for the last 30 years. You know, we published a book together. He didn't have to do that book with me, but there have been times, and there have been times in between that we've done things, publishing and otherwise. He didn't have to do with me, and he didn't have to do in support of Black Classic Press. But he's a very, very loyal friend and one of the best friends. I want to shape him like Mouse, you know? I'm like Easy, he's like Mouse.
Huh. I don't know about that.
But he's always there. You know, he is always there for a phone call. And I love this man so much. And, you know, I just celebrate the fact that we've been together for 30 years as two Black men who converse and who love each other. So he is what's in those books. That's the thing I want to say.
Bravo. Bravo. Thank you. You can also come into Source Booksellers and buy Black Classic Press books from our shelf.
Yes.
And so you don't always have to, go online,
Yeah.
to experience those reprints. Yep. Well, thank you. Any last words?
No. I'm
All
thank
right.
you. I mean, I think it's great. Thank you very much. You know, it was really fun.
Awesome. All right.
See you later.
See you later.